Welcome back, Play Action Nation, episode 5 coming in live. We got a great episode for you guys today. We got Chappy on the mic here, Bengals on the other side. Why don't we get right into this? Bengals, what do we got?
All right, so we got a couple things on the agenda today. First, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, being patient. I know me and Jeff are kind of sorting things out here. It's taking a little while to get some stuff posted, but I promise better content is on the way. So, football, baseball, majority of the stuff we got to talk about today. I know Jeff's fired up about some baseball topics we want to go over.
Yes, sir.
But I think we're going to start off here with a little 5 for 5, Jeff. Now what's that?
What is 5 for 5? What is that?
5 for 5 is 5 topics in 5 minutes. So we got 5 topics we're going to roll through. And we're going to start off with Davante Adams and the trade talks that have been going down, potential reunion with Aaron Rodgers here. Jeff, what do you think about that?
Honestly, that's kind of crazy. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that's just all talk. I think he was out saying today that it was basically like he's about the Raiders. He's all about the Raiders. He obviously made that with the Raiders. Said if any quarterback that he would like to be back with, it would 100% be Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
but
no doubt.
I don't think there's any validity to any of that. I think that a lot of it, I think he's taken it personally from what it sounded like. Kind of going on about, he's with the Raiders. It gets into the locker room. It starts causing some shit. So I don't think there's any validity to it. He's come out and said it. Corey, what do you think?
I think just kind of with the speculation that was going on, if you guys haven't, the new Receiver series is out on Netflix. I highly recommend you check that out. So I think it was like episode 6, you could see when the Jets played the Raiders, the connection that they had. They're clearly really close. And you could see that they wanted to play together. They wanted to be back together. And I think that's kind of what sparked the speculation. So simple as that, just taking out of context. It's the offseason, right?
Minutes up. On to the next. What's up next?
Next topic, we got Jordan Addison. This guy just got a DUI.
Yikes.
Talk about bad timing right after, unfortunately his teammate was just killed by that drunken driver. So some sad news there. But this guy, it's about a year since he got the speeding ticket.
Yeah.
What do you think about that one?
I'd second this news came out about like falling right after the DUI. It obviously he had that speeding ticket last, and there was already talks about like, whoa, what's this kid's decision-making skills and all that. It turned out to be something about his dog or a pet, something, I don't know what the whole rumor was, but essentially it got moved past. I don't think you move past this one. This is going to be some trouble, some heat. So I don't think there's anything much more there to talk about. We'll see how it all turns out.
Yeah, tough
that's it
give,
for that one.
man. Tough give.
What's next? What do we got next?
We got Lamar Jackson, Play of the Year at the ESPYs. Now, this is one I definitely want to hit on here quickly.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Man, and this is the problem that we seem to have nowadays is like the shiny toys and the shiny plays that these guys make and just ignoring the basic fundamentals and what it takes to play the quarterback position. Like, there was a million other plays that I could have said could have been Play of the Year. You guys put this guy on a pedestal for throwing an incomplete pass and then catching it.
He wasn't incomplete, bro. He caught it, man. He caught it. There's no incomplete there.
This is what we do nowadays is we put this garbage on a pedestal just because he's flashy. But I mean, like, hey, we graze over the guys that do it day in and day out, and they do the simplest things to the highest degree. So that was a tough one to see for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Next up.
I think we got the home run derby, right?
Takes the derby. That's right. Yeah. What do you think about that, Jeff?
No, I thought it was good. I think they did some solid changes to the actual derby itself. Some of the rule changes that obviously reverted back to some more of the pitching focus and then the timer. I think before it was like, I think the MLB just thought they wanted nukes. Like they just want to see bombs. Hey, we're going to just home runs. That's what it's about. So let's make it as long as possible. But there's actually a skill set to hitting home runs in a short period of time. Teo obviously wins it. I love the interactions, obviously from former Jays, interacting with each other between Vladdy's out there, giving them some tips. Glasnow's basically the water boy. I thought it was the funniest thing. And then obviously just be able to kind of win it through there. I was happy for Teo and happy to see that as a former Blue Jay takes it. So
XJ, that 100%. Was cool.
Yep.
All right, last topic here. We got the national anthem at the All-Star Derby. What
Brutal.
in the world was that?
I honestly, like, this will rank for me. I want to say I still think it's second behind Fergie a couple years back at the NBA one, just because of the reactions of the players. Like, that was so bad. And unfortunately, like,
That was
obviously
horrible.
she's come out and said, and I don't know if that's just a cop out. We were saying about this, like, with being, drunk. We also joked about, like, some singers, and they're better when they're drunk. Obviously,
They're better when they're
she's
drunk.
not, so that's a clear take. But it was kind of crazy to see that all unfold. But yeah, the Fergie one a couple years back, honestly, so funny because like Steph, everyone on the floor at that time was just cracking up. The cameras kept panning to these guys as she was just terrorizing the song. I loved it. I thought that was so funny. So I think it's second. Unfortunate though.
That was wild. Honestly, it was. I think if she had just left it where it was, took it on the chin, and didn't say the whole "I was drunk" and made those comments, I think we could have let that slide. But to come out and do that,
yeah,
that
she's
is not a
apparently
good
canceled.
look.
Like, I
Not a
didn't
good
even
look.
know who it was, to be honest. And we're
Yeah,
up
neither
on
did I.
time. We're about 15 seconds past. But yeah, like at the end of the day, it's crazy for her to come out and basically say that after the fact. She's canceled apparently a couple shows after that. I had no idea who this was, so it was clearly kind of a promotional thing to get the name
Yeah.
out there. The name is out there and not in a good way right now, so
Yeah,
hopefully
not in
there's
a
some
good way.
recovery on that. I heard some songs. I'd never heard a song before. It was playing on the radio because they were obviously talking about this, and
Yeah.
she sounded good. It sounded good, sounded fine, but then in that was brutal, man, awful. I was like, oh god, and then it just got worse. It just didn't stop. It got worse.
It
So
just kept going. I know. That
took a
was
couple minutes on that take, but it was
That's all right.
hard
That
done by.
deserved a couple
Yeah.
extra minutes because that was pretty rough. I couldn't believe
Absolutely
it when
did.
I saw that. But hey, it is what it is. Let's forget the subpar performance there and let's talk about some real performers at the
Yeah.
All-Star game. I know you're pretty fired up about this guy, Jeff, Mr. Paul Skenes.
Yeah.
Going into one of our main topics today.
Yeah.
Is Paul Skenes as advertised, Jeff? Why don't you lead
I
us
will
off here?
say absolutely. The talent obviously was there. Pittsburgh selected him first overall in 2023. Came off a great collegiate career with LSU. Ended up winning the College World Series, was a College World Series MVP. And if we take any of that into context over what I just said, that was in 2023. That was literally July of last year. That this guy ended up coming out of this, the College World Series MVP, getting selected first overall, and is
Yeah.
already the starter for the National League team in the All-Star game. Pitched well, pitched one inning, had a walk, which was a little bit of a different thing for him. He usually Kane guys, but absolutely as advertised. This is one of the more skilled pitchers that has entered the league. He's a little bit older than the norm, especially at the draft. I think that was part of the reason that they took him at number one, and the potential to streamline him into the MLB. It's clearly worked. He's the first pitcher since Hideo Nomo in 1995 that was a rookie pitcher named to start the All-Star game. So that alone is incredible. And I think if you just look at the numbers that he's put up this season so far, if exclusive to the ERA, he's got a 1.9 ERA. Just a phenomenal first half. It's 11 starts in. He's got 6 wins out of his 11 starts. So he's definitely an impact player. He's definitely the ace of that organization without a shadow of a doubt. Give this guy a full season, and there's just going to be really, really big things to come. I think he's got a 3.2 WAR right now, which is obviously a wins above replacement if you guys aren't aware. But that's a huge stat for a player's value, right? It is the stat for a player's value. And the fact that in 66 innings, he's already got the credentials to be named as the starter for the NL says volumes about this guy's ability as a pitcher. I think it's going to last. I think we're talking about a guy that's in recency going to be kind of one of those Clayton Kershaw, Jacob deGrom type of pitchers.
Generational talents, yeah.
And hopefully he just doesn't get into any injuries. I think that's always the concern. A lot of those guys go through the old TJ surgery right now,
Yeah.
which is obviously it's kind of the norm now though, and pitchers kind of go through this and they still come back and they still put up very, very good careers. But I think and I don't want to curse the guy either. I think he's just phenomenal. It's almost a rite of passage, if I'm being honest, just based on what even this year with the injuries that have happened to all the major arms in the league, right? But I think a lot of these guys come into the league very hot. They obviously go through that kind of spell and then they come out even better. So nothing but good things to say about this guy.
Yeah,
He's honestly at this point, man, like in my opinion from baseball, the man of the year. Like this guy has been like, this is incredible. College World Series MVP, won it. You then were drafted first overall. So that's already something incredible. Not a lot of pitchers get that alone.
Well, I
then
think
you
the
go
All-Star thing alone too, like
then
man,
the All-Star
it's
thing,
pretty incredible.
And you're dating Livy Dunn. Like there's just you get like there is everything aligned.
Paul Skenes, clearly,
man. I would like Paul Skenes is the man. So I would call this guy man of the year. He's just having a hell of a year. Like I don't think you can disregard anything, and it's crazy. So some of the crazy stats that I want to bring up today that a lot of people don't know about is back in his collegiate career, he wasn't always a pitcher. He was a pitcher and a catcher. And not only was he a catcher, but he played 2 years for Air Force Academy, and he was an Air Force cadet, number one. A lot of people wouldn't know that. But he was solid. He was solid at the plate. So in the 2 seasons that he was there, he hit .410 for his average, had 11 bombs, 43 RBIs, and had an 1183 OPS. And in the second season, he hit .314, 13 bombs, 38 RBIs, and a 1046 OPS. This guy was solid as a hitter. And there's just kind of been these jokes here and there about like obviously what Shohei is now, but with a refined focus, you put this guy at the plate, he actually might be able to hit given just how well he's adapted to this kind of stuff. If you look at that collegiately across the entire NCAA that year, he was the only pitcher to finish with double-digit saves and home runs. So he had that going for him, was ranked 21st in doubles, 14th in batting average, had a .410, so he was ranked 14th in batting average, and 17th in hits per game. So this guy was a good fucking hitter. Like it wasn't that he was, and that's NCAA, that's Division I. Yeah. So made that transfer to LSU, obviously had one hell of a short career there, but obviously made the most out of it. But yeah, like those are some incredible stats. If you refine that, you might have a player that is a two-way player that's kind of just fallen underneath the radar here in that talent, and who knows where they take that. I would just what I see the most of this, I don't think he ever gets behind the plate, especially because of all the moves that they've moved away from with NL. But obviously, if you have that ability, Pirates, put this guy behind the plate or put this guy at a bat, and I want to see something.
Seriously.
This could be one of those moments where like Madison Bumgarner just hits a bomb and everybody goes nuts, right? Yeah. And it's just one of those things that the guy has that ability. Who knows what could happen? But would love to see it.
Pretty wild.
Love to see that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't watch as much baseball, and I know you're our resident baseball guy here at 100%. Play Action Sports, but from what I'm hearing, the guy's just taking the league by storm. So listening to you talk about him it's pretty crazy. So I'm definitely going to throw on a couple more games, watch this guy because he's clearly the real deal.
Yeah, we'll get away from obviously baseball for a second. We'll kind of dive in. So we got, pardon my take, Joey B, part of that.
Yes.
Mentioned a little bit of controversy there. 18-game season. We'll dive into that with you. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, a lot of speculation coming out on this. Clearly, there isn't a whole lot going on in the offseason right now in football. So kind of the only thing that's really happened is Joe Burrow goes on the Pardon My Take podcast, and they asked him a question about an 18-game season. And this was already talked about. We know the writing's on the wall there with the NFL trying to obviously increase the number of games being played. It's a revenue game now. We know that. So he actually had a pretty legit point of there obviously needed to be 2 bye weeks. And then him saying that, maybe the Pro Bowl should exist in the middle of the season like the NBA. And it should act as another bye week as well, just to split it up. Because we all know football is a very demanding sport.
Mm-hmm.
And already with the Thursday nighters, the primetime games and everything, that it takes a beating on these guys' bodies. And we looked at like last season and all the injuries and how poor the product was on the field. Like it just wasn't a good year because of all those injuries, right? So he's obviously bringing up some pretty valid points. But the biggest takeaway was like the controversy. And I don't know if you saw the Chase Daniel post on X, but just to kind of quote a little bit of it here, he basically said, I guarantee you every NFL player seeing this is not happy with Burrow for saying this. The NFLPA is already having meetings about damage control, and the owners just gained some leverage over the players. Like it was some dumb comments that he had made about Joe Burrow, and it was a simple question, and it was just based on the hypothetical of if there was 18 games, what he would do. So I thought that was pretty stupid to make comments about that. As it's just how it goes, man, with social media. But if we all know that it's going to 18 games, so I thought he made a pretty good point because you need the bye weeks. But like I was kind of touching on,
like I don't understand what that point is. Like if anything, it's a revenue generator for the league, right?
Yeah.
It's an extra game. It's obviously got some of the talking points that obviously, like from a player safety perspective, you have that split now where you have time off and away from the game. Now, obviously, these guys, it's a week, right? But they're still keeping in shape. It's not like that's going to change much. They'll still be hitting the gym. They still be taking care of their body. But it's 1 week avoided from, honestly, the catastrophic hits, the different things that happen week over week, and the potential for injury, right? It might extend, but it also saves. So if a body needs a recovery, like we were just talking about, some healing, sometimes that's the difference, especially in the NFL, from a week of like we see this, right? Every person who's checking on fantasy sports, their sleepers, they're seeing, did this guy practice on Thursday? And if it's a Thursday game and the guy didn't practice, you're still hoping on Sunday that guy's going to be able to go. Thursday games have started to even trip that up already. So if you're given an opportunity to save some time here and save some players, I don't think like that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing.
I know it is. It's a great thing. And I think kind of like back to talking about that, the receiver series, if you guys haven't checked that out, you definitely have to check it out. But if you saw the clips of like Amon-Ra and Jefferson and Devontae Adams and the injuries these guys are taking and just how physical of a sport football is, like being able to rest and recover is massive when it comes to this sport. Like it's the same reason these guys can't play multiple games in a 3-day span. Like it's not like hockey. It's not like the NBA. They need a week's worth of rest to be able to play these games. So when you see that stuff in a series like receiver, us as fans, we sit there and we're just like, oh, come on, get up, like shake it off. Like, but we have no idea what it's like to trot ourselves out there and play such a physical sport in such a short amount of time, especially in these short weeks and stuff. So I think you need to look at, protecting these players and giving them the rest they need to recover. And I think you just have a better product overall. Like if I was in control of this situation, I wouldn't even be pushing for more games. I would go back to a 16-game season.
Yeah.
And I'd honestly do away with Thursday night football. Now, obviously, I understand this is a business, but I would be getting rid of Thursday night football. I would make sure that the only primetime games were the Sunday nighters, the Monday nighters, and making sure that these players get rest. And the beauty of the NFL is scarcity to begin with. So
it is.
The limited amount of games is what makes it such an amazing sport to watch, because every single game, it means so much. That's it's not like hockey. It's not like basketball. Everything is on the line every single week you're out there. So I'm all for a better product. Like I said, last season was pretty rough. So I'm all for kind of making sure that we prioritize health and stuff like that. But do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I want to say like I think the first thing, like even what you said with like Amon-Ra Brown tearing his like oblique off of the bone, like
Yeah.
then he talking about that kind of stuff, and then still playing, like still kind of going through that, and then like obviously there's a lot of injury there. There's a lot of stuff.
Oh
When you
yeah.
see what happened with Jefferson, when you see what happens with all these guys. Now, some of these are season enders, right? But some of these have been pushed and pushed and pushed week over week and probably getting aggravated. And probably we see toe injuries like that with running backs to the
Yeah.
death of them, right? Like the basically anything from a knee to a toe to any kind of like foot issue at all is a
Yeah.
massive thing, right? You saw that with Travis Etienne and see all that kind of stuff happen. So
Huge, man.
you play that, and then obviously you need that recovery time. And some guys take 6 games off, and 6 games off is obviously a big thing, but
Yeah.
it's a massive thing when you're talking about the scarcity that you were just talking about. But yeah, when you look at the player safety development of this 18 games, I think you either do it two ways, right? And you extend that, and then you give that opportunity for rest, or you do what you said and you shorten it. And if you shorten it back, I do agree. Sunday night football, Monday night football. That's the
Yeah.
best. It is the absolute best when it comes to the NFL. You're ready for it. You get ready for it. If
100%.
if you're if you're obviously a fan of football, we are huge fans of football. You're playing everything, especially if you're playing sports betting. You're playing everything, and then you're getting ready for Monday night or Sunday night football. So
Yep.
you're seeing everything fall in its place and its pieces. But then you got the Sunday nighter, you got the Monday nighter, and it's beautiful. Thursday night, the slate even last year was shit. Like it was just
Yeah. It
garbage,
was
and
garbage.
it
It was
was funny
garbage.
because I'm like, Prime paid for this shit. So like, like you got the most amount of money of any company in the entire world, and that's the slate that the NFL gives you. And I
I
was
know.
crying about that because it was just garbage. And to your point, like not only was it garbage, but these garbage games that in a lot of cases meant nothing. Like they didn't have any impact on the season whatsoever. And
Yeah.
then they're playing into the and maybe that was it. Maybe they knew that and they just rolled this shit schedule out because they're like, hey, like these guys aren't gonna fucking matter anyway.
Yeah.
So
Legit,
let's
man.
just have it on this. But no, I think what you're saying, like if they do away with Thursday night, I could give less of a shit. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
sick. Football on Thursday. That's legit. I got something to do on Thursday nights. But like when I watched the games, I was like, what's the product that we have put out
Yeah.
here? Like
Exactly.
I don't understand what the NFL was doing.
Yeah.
If not for just trying to make more money. And that's what it is. It's the business, like you said. I just can't
Yeah.
get
And
past the like the other
that's
element, which is like, you know what I want to do, NFL? I want to watch the best players play your fucking game. And if
yes,
you can't
correct.
have the best players on the field every week, putting on a show and putting up the stuff and getting those big numbers out for your television, then what are we doing with Thursday night? If you can't
Yeah.
provide, don't provide the best. And a lot of the guys sat too. That was another big takeaway is there was a
Yeah.
lot of the key players that ended up sitting on Thursday night because they didn't have any fucking ability to play because they needed to rest. So
Yeah.
you have those elements of those guys that need to go. And if they can't go, what's the point? What's the point in running that night? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Do away with that crap. Like stop feeding us the garbage primetime games just so you can get more revenue from these different places. Like and that's kind of one of the big things like I wanted to touch on. I did a little deep dive, kind of I don't know if any of you guys know Warren Sharp, but and so he's great.
yep.
He's got a whole book online, but I love some of the stuff that he comes out with. And I've been kind of looking into. He had an article, teams helped and hurt by the NFL schedule,
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of going into it, and it was basically like showing the different rest advantages that teams had going into certain weeks and over the course of the season in total, and just how much of a disadvantage and how much of an advantage some of these teams would have. So,
Nice.
like when you look at it this year, this is a pretty crazy stat when I pulled it up. So there's 10 teams that play 3 games in a 10-day span this year, after not having any teams do that in the prior 5 years combined. That is wild. When you
That's
think of the game
crazy.
of football, 3 games in a 10-day span, That's nuts. That's just not enough recovery time for these guys that are playing such a violent sport.
Yeah.
And the reason they're doing this is to just force these primetime games because they're selling the rights to all these different services. Netflix, what was it, Amazon last year.
Yep.
And the product in all these games have been ass. So
Yeah.
it's like these guys are sacrificing schedule fairness and equality and recovery just for ratings. And it's only getting worse. Like the stats are just getting worse. Another crazy stat from last year. So when the Chiefs played with at least 2 days less rest than their opponents, and they did that in 5 games last year, they were 2-3 and covered the spread in just one of those 5 games. And that one game was when they played the Bengals and we had a backup quarterback. So
just had
to it's a pretty wild take. Yeah. Just had to slide that one in there. Backup QB.
Backup, but, yeah, it was a backup. It's not anything else.
Backup.
Like
that's the one you got.
Taylor wasn't at that game.
When you look at the Chiefs games with a rest deficit of 2+ days, they were 2-3, and then, like I said, outright, and then 1-4 against the spread. So like all the other games that they had played, they were 13-2 outright and 12-3 against the spread. So clearly a massive upgrade when you have enough rest going into your games, right? And the same, I don't have this stat here, but the same was for the 49ers. They went on that 3-game losing stretch where they were playing teams off bye weeks. They had far more rest than they did. Mm-hmm. And you could see that San Fran was getting banged up. Debo was getting injured there too. Yep. Like, you can see what happens when these teams don't have enough rest. And it's clearly affecting the product on the field. So I do think, like, I get the business side of these things, but find a way to prioritize the health of these athletes, because I don't care about an 18-game season if everybody is injured and the product is like it was last year. I would rather get 16 games and everybody is healthy on the year, because I don't want to see a bunch of backup quarterbacks out there. I want to see the talented players, the top quarterbacks in the league playing the game. And I want them to have longevity too. So I think the league needs to start looking into some of this stuff, not letting this kind of swing so far in the let's just generate revenue line of fire here. We want to make sure we protect these athletes. But
yeah, I would agree. I think they're also like they've started to stretch with a lot of the, like, they've always done the Thanksgiving thing, so I'm not really opposed to that. But then, like, there are different stretches of the season that they do have these, like, Friday, Saturday situations with, like, the travel to the different spots across, like, they were in England, right? They were doing all those types of games, and they're like doing that international piece now, and that's playing a part on it as well. Like,
it's huge.
I think, what was it, last year? I'm not sure if it was with, I think Jacksonville did that, and then they came back. And like that type of layover, that type of, like, even travel. We're talking about travel. We're talking about teams, rest. Travel is a big thing, right? When we're talking about the teams and like all the other leagues, the NBA, the MLB, when you're traveling east, you're traveling west, when you're doing all that, that's also a thing on circadian rhythm of your body. Like, there's a big impact on the other stuff, to the lifestyle of what you're doing day to day, and how athletes have to adjust to those things already. So you're already, like, obviously a week apart gives you enough time to get yourself acclimated and do what you need to do. But when you start cutting that time up and start making it shorter, and you have those Monday night games, and then you're traveling on the Tuesday, and then you're getting in on the Wednesday, and then you're practicing, and then you're doing like a Thursday. And if you got to practice and go for Thursday game, and I don't think we've had a Monday to Thursday, but at this point, I'm not completely knocking it out of the park that they won't explore that in the future, right? So I think if that happened, every NFL GM, every NFL owner needs to just lose their shit on that and be like, yo, I'm not sacrificing the guy I'm just paying guaranteed money to go out there on a Thursday night and perform after he performed on Monday night. So no, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I think they're saying, so this year, because the NFL is trying to schedule more games in primetime viewing situations, there's going to be more short week road games than last year. So there's 42 short week road games, which is up from 38 last year.
Wow.
And funny enough, the two teams that take the brunt of that is my Bengals and the 49ers. So if you actually look at these stats, the 49ers are getting just absolutely fleeced out here with the rest deficiency, because also they have the primetime games, a lot of them as well.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
So the Bengals and 49ers both have to play 3 short week road games this week. And that's the most of any team in the NFL. And funny enough, what should frustrate us Bengals fans is they were one of 3 teams that had to play 3 short week road games last year as well. Mm-hmm. So we're getting it 2 years in a row. And we have 2 Thursday night games this year as well. Like, we're one of the teams that has to play 3 games in a 10-day span. That stuff, it wears on
it adds up.
I mean, we've had a quarterback that's gone through.
I was going to say, Joey B, keep your head up, kid. Get your sleep in.
I mean, and mind you, some of his injuries are just crazy. But this is what we're talking about, man. Like, NFL, if you want to do something right here, start prioritizing player recovery and health so that we can have a good product on the field when the time comes. And we're not watching the back half of the season littered with a bunch of backup quarterbacks. We want to see the good stuff. So start taking care of our guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's really that simple.
I bet this is the reason they gave the big old helmets a green light. They said just the small caps. Things that they're like, hey, let's the Guardian caps. What's that character out of like the fucking Jetsons and or whatever it is? Gazoo. Yeah, that's what this guy looks like. He's a little green Gazoo.
You think these guys are going to be trotting out on the field with the Guardian caps? Absolutely not. But you know what? That's going to cover their asses.
Yeah, it is 100%.
NFL's like,
concussions, everything.
Yeah,
well,
we're going to give you wear the Guardian caps.
Yep.
Just they're going to cover their ass and do what they can, make their money. And that's why I don't blame the players. Go get your money, do your thing, because it's a short shelf life, and
guaranteed.
It's a massive business that makes a ton of money. So do your thing, get your bag. But yeah, so kind of a big topic there. I mean, wanted to get that off the chest. I mean, that's been kind of pissing me off a little bit. The NFL kind of going as is with that stuff. But what do we got up next here on the agenda, bud?
Honestly, I don't know if we had anything else.
That's a wrap. Is that a wrap? We ran out of topics.
I think that's a wrap. I think a wrap. We locked it in. Quick little short show today. We got obviously a lot talked about there. It's a good insight into the MLB. Paul Skenes is the man, and then obviously like player safety. We're going to be talking more about this as the season progresses. Just making sure that obviously any injuries that are going to pop up, we're going to be first on them, and obviously communicating that on any of our socials. So pay attention there. It's going to be a big impact. You want to hear it here first, and we'll kind of continue it on from there. But if you guys aren't already following us, Play Action Podcast on all social. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it, guys.
Take care.